So what would it mean if the Saints could follow up a winless third quarter with a perfect fourth quarter? Yeah, other than an 8-8 record and the fact that it would ruin the team's chances at a top 10 draft pick. Well, we're going to ask this question and more of our own Jeff Duncan coming up next on the Black and Gold Today. Welcome to the Black and Gold Today, sponsored by Cadillac of New Orleans. I'm Jim Derry. Still chuckling at me asking what a perfect fourth quarter might do for the Saints? Well, the laugh very well could be on you with 3 winnable games against teams with losing records. 8-8 is a serious possibility. Interestingly, it seems as if the toughest of Detroit, Jacksonville, and Atlanta is a home game against the Jaguars a week from Sunday in the Superdome. Well, to talk about this, let's go to NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune sports columnist Jeff Duncan. And you know, it is a weird remaining schedule, and if you would have told me beginning of the season the hardest game of the 3 between Detroit, Jacksonville, and Atlanta was going to be Jacksonville, I'd have laughed at you.
Yeah, I know. I think everybody discounted Jacksonville. That seemed like the one sure win on the schedule to start the year. But if we've learned anything with this Saints season, you can't look ahead, you can't look at records, and you can't predict what the Saints are going to do. I mean, they lost at home to the Tennessee Titans, for goodness sakes. They can lose to anybody at any time, so I certainly don't think that we can judge by the one-loss record how this Saints team is going to perform or execute. I think we just have to take it one game at a time. Well,
let's start with Detroit, and that's coming in on Monday night. First of all, what do you expect from the crowd? Do you expect them to be fired up? They go and they lose 4 in a row, and then they go on the road and beat Tampa, which surprised a lot of people. You expect the crowd to be fired up on a Monday night?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a Monday night game. They've won a game. I mean, that's all it takes in New Orleans. I mean, people are looking for reasons to party. They will be well lubricated by Monday night. As we all know, I mean, the Saints are very difficult to beat in these Monday night games, or Thursday night games, or Sunday night games. Just put it in prime time, put the lights on, and the Saints are tough.
And Drew Brees, seems to come to life in primetime games. They're 12-4 in Monday night under Sean Payton, and they fared well on Sunday night as well. So you don't need to give me your prediction yet, but what do you think? How do you feel like the Saints can keep going on from Sunday's performance, or do you think it was just a one-week thing?
No, you know what? Look, they played well against Carolina and lost. I mean, that's the best team in the league, and I thought their performance was good the last 2 weekends. I think the key question goes back to your initial question. It's not about the Saints showing up. I think we know they're going to show up. Is Detroit going to show up? I mean, Detroit's been eliminated from playoff consideration. Their head coach, reportedly, Jim Caldwell, is on the way out. We'll see if the Lions can rally the troops around their head coach or if they're going to lay down, play out the string.
Yeah, and getting ready for the show yesterday, I was looking at some things that the Free Press had written, and that's all they write. Caldwell's got to go now. Caldwell's got to go now. It's interesting to see that this Lions team, they have basically one good season with a quarterback like Matthew Stafford and a receiver like Calvin Johnson. In a way, they're kindred spirits with these current Saints, not necessarily Saints from 2 years ago. Sort of like an underachieving bunch. You expect more out of them, and they're not happy in Detroit.
No, and look, they've had some change in ownership there. They've changed. The general manager is probably going to be on the way out, so there's a lot of turbulence and distraction for that team. Look, but they still got a very good defense, and that's one thing that I think the Saints are going to be challenged is, can they run the ball? They ran the ball pretty well down in Tampa against a good defense. Can they follow that up? That's been a very inconsistent part of the Saints offense. If they can run the ball, I think they'll have big-time success moving it through the air. But if they don't establish a run and allow guys like Ziggy Ansah to get his ears turned back on that pass rush, I mean, it could be a long afternoon. Because if you look at Detroit's games, they've lost a lot of games, but they've had a lot of low-scoring, close games that they've lost. So this defense is legitimate.
Before we get to the extra point, I do want to talk about the other side of the ball. The defense this past week, before Vincent Jackson got hurt, and throughout the game, they were able to shut Mike Evans down for the most part, which was surprising. Will they be able to do those sorts of things against Calvin Johnson and Golden Tate?
Well, I think that's the key. You mentioned 2 receivers. When Vincent Jackson went down, that changed everything for Tampa, because all of a sudden the Saints could concentrate their coverage on Mike Evans. Much easier for the Saints to focus in on one receiver than 2 really good ones like Detroit has. The Saints just aren't very deep right now at corner other than Delvin Breaux, I don't think you can trust anybody in man-to-man coverage. But when you've got one guy, it's much easier. So it's going to be interesting to see what Dennis Allen does. I like the way he's changed things up. He's mixing and matching fronts. He's pressuring a little more than Rob Ryan did. Actually, a lot more than Rob Ryan did. And I think it's been effective. But let's face it, Jim. I mean, we all watched that game against Tampa. They had a guy wide open for a touchdown late in the game, and then they had another one dropped.
They also had a linebacker on the guy.
Right. It was on a running back. But the point is, there were guys open, and Tampa's spotty, inconsistent passing attack couldn't take advantage.
It's also unfortunate that Swan, now it seems he's out for likely the rest of the season.
Another huge loss, and look, the Saints are doing the right thing. Actually, it's out of their hands. And it's really unfortunate because he played extremely well. He's been one of the bright spots of that rookie class, but 3 concussions in that short a span, there's no other option for him.
Well, when we get back from our extra point, from our break here, our extra point today will be, as we've done the last couple Wednesdays, Jeff Duncan's picks, his best bets. We'll come right back.
What's one of the nicest things that comes with your new Cadillac from Cadillac of New Orleans? 0% interest.
Get 0% interest on all new Cadillacs, now at Cadillac of New Orleans. New owners, new attitude, on Lime Street in Rye in Metairie.
For the extra point today, we started a little new tradition here a few weeks ago, and it's your best bets. And we'll start off, maybe not necessarily a best bet. Last week we had a good Thursday game with Arizona and Minnesota, 2 teams fighting for playoff spots. Arizona may be the best team in the NFC. We talked about it. This week, 2 teams who definitely are not the best teams in the NFC. St. Louis won last week against the Saints' next foe, Detroit, but Tampa Bay loses this game. It's going to be an interesting game between 2 average teams, St. Louis and Tampa Bay.
Could be the penultimate game for St. Louis in St. Louis. For the Rams there, they could be moving on to Los Angeles. And I think the whole key to this game is what Tampa team shows up. I think Tampa's probably the better team, but they laid an egg last week against the Saints, not to take anything away from them, but I think it was a learning experience for Tampa. I think they bounce back and play well and win on the road. They've won some big games on the road already this year.
Jeff Fisher's not on the hot seat, is he?
Oh, yeah, I think definitely. With moving that team potentially out to L.A., I think they could make a change. Stan Kroenke's, that's what he's desired all along, is to be the high-profile team in that market. And I think it's going to happen. And I think Jeff Fisher's a great coach, but it could be a good time to change if they move.
Interesting. We'll give a little lagniappe before we get to Sunday's best bet. There's a Saturday night game this week. The Jets are heading to Dallas to face a Romo-less Cowboys team, and that is just a different team. Even when Tony Romo's playing and he's injured, it's just a different team.
Yeah, and it just shows the value of having a good backup quarterback. Dallas neglected that position, and it's come back to haunt them. I mean, other than quarterback, they're a very talented team, but the Jets have won 3 games in a row, and they have to continue to keep pace in the AFC with the Steelers and the Chiefs right now. That AFC wildcard competition is going to be interesting because you've got 3 8-5 teams. All 3 of them are very good, and I think the Jets are going to end up being the odd team out.
They've had a couple losses that they shouldn't have lost that's hurt them along the way, but I think a lot of people were surprised at how well they played overall. Well, let's get to Sunday, and big slate of games on Sunday. One good thing about when the buys are over, you got this just big chunk of games and all kinds of stuff to watch. And this Sunday, you'll be able to stay home and watch them.
I know, for the first time in a while. And my pick of the week is going to be the Eagles at home. I think they've kind of righted the ship. They've won 2 in a row now out of nowhere. They beat the Patriots. Then last week they got another nice win against the Bills. And I think that's a hungry, desperate team. They've got to try and keep pace in the NFC least. And they get the Arizona Cardinals at home. Arizona's 10-2. They're kind of locked in, I think, to the number 2 seed in the NFC. I don't think they're going to get the number 1 seed, and I don't think they're going to drop below number 2. So I think there's more incentive for the Eagles at home with Chip Kelly, even though I think Arizona's probably a better team.
Chip Kelly, is he in trouble?
Well, if he doesn't make the playoffs, I think he's definitely going to be – I think the public and the media is going to be after him. I think Jeff Lurie's going to stick with him. He's kind of a patient owner.
Those fans aren't very patient.
No, not in Philadelphia of any place. That's the place where they booed Santa Claus.
Yeah, right.
So, Chip Kelly's certainly not going to be as popular if they miss the playoffs this year.
He better not put a Santa hat on. They might throw something at him. And come back the rest of the week. We'll have Pixie Dust coming up. And then on Monday, we're going to have a special guest. Mike Tirico will be visiting us. So make sure you don't miss any more of the Black and Gold today. It starts tomorrow. We'll see you then.